Okay, good morning, boys and girls. We are going to continue our lessons in measuring. Yesterday, we talked about inches and that inches were part of what we call customary units of measure, which is what we use in this country to measure things. Most of the rest of the world uses the metric system, centimeters and meters and kilometers. But in our country, we use what we call customary units of measure, which are inches, feet, yards, miles, okay? The smallest unit in entirety is an inch. But yesterday we learned that you could have part of an inch, and we don't change the name of it when it's smaller than an inch. We just say that it's 1/4 of an inch, or half an inch, or 3/4 of an inch, or an inch. Okay? Inch is the smallest unit. You can have part of a unit of an inch, but there is no unit smaller than an inch. Today, we're going to talk about the next one up. We're going to talk about a foot. Now, a foot is about the space of your hands. If you put your two thumbs like this, do that now. The distance between pinky to pinky, that's about 1 foot. It's close. It's a good estimate. So we're talking about that much space when you do this. We're talking about that much space. 1 foot will equal 12 inches. Exactly. If you were making an estimate, you would do this. You would put your two thumbs together and you'd spread your fingers wide, and from pinky to pinky would be about a foot. But an exact measurement of a foot is 1 foot equals 12 of those inches. Now remember, an inch, an inch is about like that. Look at your ruler. You can see an inch. You may have a 6-inch ruler. You might have a 12-inch ruler. Some of the rulers are even 18 inches. I have one at school that's 18 inches. But most rulers are either 6 inches, the short ones, like the ones you use on the Terra Nova test, or 12 inches, which is what most rulers are. Most rulers that you buy in the store are 12 inches long. And they have inches on one edge and centimeters on the other edge, so you have to be sure you're using the inches side when you measure. But the length of one of those rulers, one of those 12-inch rulers, is a foot. Okay? We abbreviate foot as FT. No period, just 1 FT, 2 FT, 7 FT, however many feet it is. But 1 foot equals 12 inches. Remember, yesterday I told you when you abbreviate inches, it's IN period. The only one that gets a period in the abbreviations is inches. Okay? Otherwise it looks like the word in. We have no word FT. We have no word YD. We have no word MI. Okay? But we do have a word IN. So we make sure that the reader knows that it's an abbreviation. We put a period or a dot after it. Okay? So 1 foot equals 12 inches. We don't put S. It doesn't matter if this is, you learn whether you read this as foot or feet. If it has a 1, you say foot. If it has any other number, you say feet. And inches, you just automatically, if it's 1 inch or 2 inches, 3 inches, the abbreviation's the same, whether it's plural or singular. FT for foot, no period. IN for inches, period. Okay, and 1 foot equals 12 inches, which is about this distance. Okay. The next increment up from inches to a foot is when you have 3 of these feet together. 3 of these feet together is called a yard. So we have inches is the smallest, feet is the next, which is 12 inches, and then yards, spelled the same way as if it was in your backyard, and that's 3 feet equal 1 yard. 1 yard. We should make for now I'll make this foot 1 foot. Okay? Now, if you want to get an estimate of what does 1 yard look like, if you stretched your arm straight out and you measured from the tip of your nose, the middle of your nose, the tip of your nose, to the edge of your fingers, that's about 1 yard. From your nose to the tip of your fingers is about 1 yard. The exact measurement of a yard is 36 inches. 1 yard equals 36 inches. Here's the abbreviation. Up here I wrote the words out, but here I wrote it with the abbreviations. And 36 inches equals 3 feet. So if 1 yard equals 36 inches and 36 inches equals 3 feet, then 1 yard equals 3 feet. If 1 yard equals 36 inches and 36 inches equals 3 feet, then 1 yard equals 3 feet. Okay? If two things equal, if this equals that and that equals a third thing, then that third thing also equals the first thing, because they're all equal to each other. And that's what we're doing here. So now you're going to pause the video. You're going to copy down Chapter 8.2, foot and yard, because that's the title of what we're studying today. You're going to copy this down into your notebook exactly the way it's written here. And when you're done, you'll start the video again, and we'll continue with doing some problems using these measurements. So pause the video now. Okay, if you have joined us again, that means you are done copying everything down into your notebook. So now you're going to skip a line, and we're going to think about when we would use certain measurements. Now, another way that you could estimate a foot besides this, okay, an object like a football, a fully inflated football, that's about 1 foot, okay? A football is about 1 foot. Okay? If I had 3 footballs, three footballs, 3 feet, 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, is about 1 yard. Look how I abbreviate yard, YD, lowercase yd, with no period after it, just YD. So we already learned IN with a period means inches, inch or inches. FT with no period means either foot or feet. Oh, I wrote that real sloppy. I'm going to rewrite that. And now we learned that YD means yard or yards. Okay? Alrighty. So you have 2 ways now to kind of get an idea of how much space we're talking about with a foot. A foot, when you put your thumbs together, is about this distance between pinky to pinky, or about the size of 1 football. And a yard is the distance from the tip of your nose to your outstretched arm to the fingertips. That's one way to estimate it. Or about 3 footballs edge to edge. Or even a baseball bat. A baseball bat is about 3 feet. They're not exactly, but just to get a ballpark. So now, knowing that information, if I asked you, what would you use to measure the width of your textbook? Would you use inches? Would you use feet? Or would you use yards? Hopefully you're telling me you would use inches, right? What about if you were going to measure how tall a person is? Would you use inches, feet, or yards? Yeah, you know, I think you would probably use feet also. Inches, you would have to have a whole lot of them because inches are small. And most people, especially people in 3rd grade, aren't much taller than 1 yard. It's 1 yard and some feet. They don't usually make 2 yards. To be 2 yards, you have to be 6 feet tall. And that, you know, Mr. Lennox is bigger than 2 yards, but Mrs. Lennox isn't, and you guys aren't. Okay, so we would use feet to measure how tall a person was. What about if I wanted to know a football field from end zone, from goalpost to goalpost? Would I measure it in inches, feet, or yards? Yeah, the best would be yards, okay? We could measure it in feet because a football field is 100 yards long, so that means it's 300 feet. I don't even know how much inches because it would be 300 times 12, and I can't do that in my head right now, okay? So when you do your practice activities, you're going to have to decide, should I be measuring in inches or feet or yards? When you answer those questions, you're going to use the appropriate abbreviation. Only inches gets a period. If you forget to put the period, they're going to mark it wrong. Okay? Now let's see if we can do it, some conversions. Hopefully, I'm going to put this back. You can pause the video again and copy this stuff down. Okay, so pause the video now. All right, so now if you're coming back, that means you've copied everything down and you've restarted the video. So let's do a little bit of conversion, okay? Let's say I asked you to compare 36 inches. I want you to compare it to 3 feet. And I want you to tell me, is it greater than, equal to, or less than? Is the first one greater than the second one? Is the first one equal to the second one? Is the first one less than the second one? Now, look what happens. It's easy to compare. If I said compare 5 inches compared to 7 inches, well, they're the same unit, inches, and there's more of them here. There's 7, so it would be easy to tell me that 5 inches is less than 7 inches. But that's not what I have here. Look, inches here on this side of the blank is in inches, and on that side of the blank is in feet. So that means we have to turn one of these into the other. So I could either turn my inches into feet, or I can turn my feet into inches. I think in this case it might be easier to turn my feet into inches. If you look at what you copied down in your notebook, you see that 1 foot equals 12 inches, right? 1 foot equals 12 inches. So if you know that 1 foot equals 12 inches, let's do this. 1 foot equals 12 inches, then 2 feet equals another 12, right? Which means it's 24 inches, and 3 feet equals another 12 inches, which is 36 inches. Now, this is the same as 36 inches. Now I can compare 36 inches to 36 inches. Is 36 inches greater than 3 feet? Is 36 inches equal to 3 feet? Or is 36 inches less than 3 feet? Hopefully you told me they're the same thing and you would put an equal sign there. Copy this down. Pause the video if you need to. Okay, what if you were given this problem? What if you were given 1 foot compared to 13 inches? 1 foot compared to 13 inches. Well, here again, we have inches on one side and feet on the other. I can't compare them until they're both the same thing. Because we can't just look at the numbers and say, well, 13 is bigger than 1, so, you know, this one must be bigger. It might be bigger, but we don't know until they're both either inches or they're both either feet. So let's turn my 1 foot into inches. So think back to your notes. Look at your notebook. 1 foot equals how many inches? How many inches equals 1 foot? Copy this down in your notebook. If you're looking at your notes, you're going to see that 12 inches equals 1 foot. So now I can compare 12 inches to 13 inches. So is 1 foot also known as 12 inches? They're the same amount. They're just different names for the same amount. And that's what we're doing here. We're renaming this feet as inches. Remember when we were talking, when we borrowed and carried, say we had 10 and we were going to take away 7 and I couldn't take away the 7 here. I had to, let's make this 20. I had to borrow 1 from here, 1 set of 10, and I had to break it apart and turn it into 10 ones. Well, 1 10 and 10 ones. 1 10 and 10 ones equals 20, right? It's the same as 20. It's just got a different name. Well, the same thing's going to happen over here. We have 12 inches is the same thing. It's just a different name for 1 foot. They're still the same amount of space. They're still the same amount of space. 13, whether it's 12 inches or 1 foot, it's still the space between this pinky and this pinky. So now I can compare them. Is 1 foot greater than 13 inches? Is 1 foot equal to 13 inches? Is 1 foot less than 13 inches? Hopefully you told me it is less than 13 inches. I copy this down. All right, let's copy the next one down. Let's try one more. What if we did, let's do something big. Let's do 108 inches. 108 inches. And we're going to compare it to 3 yards. Okay, now copy this down into your notebook. You're going to have to convert again because we've got inches and we've got yards. Now, if you did not have this written down somewhere in your notebook, which you do have one that tells you what how many inches 1 yard equals. Okay? But if you didn't have that, then you would have to do 2 steps. But we have it, so we're just going to look at our book, and we know that 1 yard equals how many inches? Right, 36 inches. But we're not talking about 1 yard. We're talking about 3 yards. So we can either add 36 inches and 36 inches, or we can multiply 36 inches times 1, 2, 3, and we're going to get the same answer. Okay, So 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 6 is 18. Put down the 8, regroup the 1. 3, 6, 9, 10, 108 inches. Now, if I multiply, I should get the same answer. 3 times 6 is 18. Put down the 8, regroup the 1. 3 times 3 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Now, you haven't really learned this yet. Some of you know how to do this. I'm sorry, 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. Some of you already know how to do this, but if you don't, that's okay. This is perfectly acceptable to do in 3rd grade. You can do this in 4th grade, okay? So, 36 plus 36 plus 36 equals 108 inches. So now, if 108 inches equals 3 yards, can you compare these? 108 inches, remember this goes back to what we said before, that if one football equals, I'm sorry, what did I give you? I gave you if 12 inches equals 1 foot, and I forgot the example I gave you. Oh, if 1 yard, I remember, if 1 yard was 36 inches, and 36 inches equals 3 feet, then 1 yard equals 3 feet. Well, this is the same thing. If 3 yards equals 108 inches, then now you can compare 3 yards and 108 inches. So would I put a greater than, a less than, or equal sign here? Right, I would put equals, because 108 inches equals 3 yards, because we know that 3 yards equals what we did the math over here that showed that 3 yards equals 108 inches. Okay, I think that's all you need to know. Oh, no, let's do ordering of if numbers. Let's say you were given 3 amounts, and I told you to put them in order the way we did for whole numbers, okay? Let's say I gave you, let's do 4 feet, and I give you 2 yards, and I give you 15 inches. And I say, put these in order from the smallest length to the longest length. Smallest to longest. Smallest to longest. Okay? Well, look, we can't compare them. Never mind put them in order. Because in order to put them in order, first you have to compare these two. And then you have to compare again to this one. And we can't really do that because they're all different units of measure. There's feet, there's yards, there's inches. We have to get them all to be the same, or we can't compare them. So let's first, over here, since this is already in inches and it's the smallest unit, let's convert all of these to inches as well, okay? So if we have 2 yards, we want to know how many inches that is, okay? Well, we know that 1 yard, if you look at what you wrote in your notebook, 1 yard equals 36 inches. But we're not talking about 1 yard, we're talking about 2 yards. So, how many inches is 2 yards then? Well, it's 36 inches plus 36 inches. 6 plus 6 is 12, carry the 1, 3, 6, 7, 72 inches. So this is the same thing as 72 inches. Okay? Now let's do 4 feet. We know that 1 foot, let's change colors so that we can, we don't get everything all confused. We know that 1 foot equals, oops, I put a period there and it's not supposed to be a period. 1 foot equals 12 inches. I'm going to move this over a little bit because we're getting too close and the markers are too close in color. 1 foot equals 12 inches. But we're not talking about 1 foot, we're talking about 4 feet. So you can either use your times tables, 4 times 12, because you know that by heart. You know that 4 times 12 equals 48, and then you put inches. Or you can add them. 12, 12, 12, plus 12. 12 inches, plus 12 inches, plus 12 inches, plus 12 inches. 2, 4, 6, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Either way, we get 48 inches. But we can do multiplication in this case because we know our 4 times tables really well. Okay? But let's say you're having temporary insanity and you forgot that 4 times 12 equals 48. You can always add it this way, the way we did before. Okay? Like we did over here. So now we know that 4 feet equals 48 inches. Well, now we can compare them and we can write them in order from least to greatest, smallest to longest. So the smallest one is going to be 15, because they're all inches. 15 inches, 72 inches, 48 inches. So this one's going to be first. And which one's going to be second? Which is the medium size one? Right, this one is going to be second. And this one's going to be third and last. But you can't just write these numbers like this. This is just to help you. You have to write it in this format. So what comes first? 15 inches. IN period, comma. Then comes the second one. 4 feet. You put it back to feet. And then the third one, 2 yards. Now, it won't always work out that inches, feet, yards come like this. Sometimes this is going to have a really high number and it's going to cause it to be in one of these other positions. Okay? Copy this down. Pause the video if you need to copy this down. Let's do one more where we are going to put them in order. This time we're going to go from the longest to the shortest. And that's where everybody makes their mistakes. I know my 4th graders make this kind of mistake sometimes. And it's not that they can't do it, it's that they didn't read the directions. So this time we are going to go from longest to shortest. And I always put next to it to remind me, I go L to S, longest to shortest. All right, so let's say you were given, 4 yards and 72 inches and 5 feet. And you're being asked to put them going from the longest, whichever one's the longest, to the shortest. Now, we've got yards, we've got inches, we've got feet. I would change everything to inches, okay? Because you're always going to be able to put feet and yards into inches, but you can't always turn inches into yards or feet. Sometimes you can, and you can't always turn feet into yards. So go with the smaller one. Whatever the small, because remember, inches are smaller units. Even though it has the biggest number, it's the smallest unit. So let's turn everything into inches. So let's first start with feet. How many inches is in one foot? 1 foot equals how many inches? Look at your chart in your book. we know that it equals 12 inches, but we're not talking about 1 foot, we're talking about 5 feet. And we know our 5 times tables, so we can just multiply 5 times 12. What is 5 times 12? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. 60 what? 60 inches. So we know that 5 feet equals 60 inches. And this one's 72 inches because it's already done for us. Now we have to turn our yards into inches. So we know that from our sheet that 1 yard equals how many inches? Look at your chart. How many inches are in 1 yard? Right, 36. But we are not talking about 1 yard. We are talking about 4 yards. So we have to add 36 plus 36 plus 36. So you're going to need lots of scrap paper to do these problems. 1, 2, 3, 4 times 6, or 12 plus 12 is 24. Put down, these are all in inches, by the way, so you have to put these inches in here. And you have to put inches in your answer. So 24, so we're going to carry the 2. 1, 2, 3, 4 times 3, or 3, 6, 9, 12, plus 2 is 14. So 144 inches is what 4 yards looks like, equals 144 inches. Now they're all in inches, so we can figure out which one's the longest, which is the middle, and which is the shortest. So it looks what happened. It happens to be in the right order, doesn't it? This is the longest, 144. This is the second longest, and this is the shortest. So this is already in the correct order. Okay? Alrighty, that's it.